Hey everyone, it's Durf, and welcome back to another Scrap Mechanic Mods video. Today I've got something special for you guys. I'm starting a new series on my channel called Mod Review. It's been a while since the developers of Scrap Mechanic have released their official mod support, and to date, there are over 200 mods on the workshop. This probably means there are a lot of mods that people never really got a chance to see. So these mod reviews will help shine the spotlight on another mod maker from our very lovely Scrap Mechanic community. But this is more than just a showcase. I'll also be doing a review. I'll try the mod myself, maybe try to build something with it, and try to see the mod's full potential. I will also critique the mod and give some feedback. This means I will be looking at the mod files to suggest any improvements that I think would benefit the mod. I'll also try to expand on the mod's concept and offer any ideas that I get for some potential future updates. But that's enough of the boring talk, let's get right into today's mod review. So as you can see behind me, I'm joined by a bunch of Farmbots. Today's mod was created by Mineslime, and the name of the mod is Farmbots. This mod adds 2 new items. They are not interactive, so you can't really connect anything to them. But... oh, I already have them in my hotbar. So let's go over to that launch pad down there, and we'll take a closer look at these Farmbots. Alright, here we are at the launch pad. Let's go ahead and spawn a couple of those Farmbots for us to see. And I think, let me check something really quick. So if you're placing these Farmbots, yeah, the rotation is a lot like a seat. Like, here, let's pull out a seat. So if you put a seat down and you try to rotate it, it always sticks to the ground from the bottom of the seat and it'll rotate along that face. But if you try to stick it to a wall, it'll rotate the same way, but then the seat is sideways because it can only stick from the bottom of the seat. And that's exactly what the Farmbots do. They're just like the seat. So that's cool, that's convenient. As you recall from the intro, these Farmbots are paintable, so you should be able to paint them any color that you need. Blue, oh, the blue looks really nice. See, red? Wow, that's really nice, actually. Maybe the darker red. Yeah, that looks a little bit meaner Farmbot. Oh, that's an interesting color. What about green? Very nice. This olive green is the original color. I think... what about yellow? I don't think I remember seeing a yellow Farmbot. Or pink. Yes. Yes. Attack of the Pink Farmbots. Anyway, moving on. Both of these bots are paintable, of course. Let's take a look at the collision. So we'll just place some wood around this to get an idea of like where the item stops and starts. And it seems to be this box right here. I can't place any wood on the inside, so that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so it's a 5x6 rectangle. Let's see how tall this thing is. Is the antenna included? No, okay, so the antenna's not included, and if we disconnect this, the wood block just falls right on its head. That's great, that's great. Okay, so it looks like it's about this tall. Yeah, and then we can't place any wood under there, so this is our collision box. It is, what was it? What did I say? 5x6 by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so 5 by 6. That's the collision box for this thing. But I'm curious, does this collision box have detail to it? Let's find that out right now. If we remove this and we remove this, I wonder, that doesn't really look... Let's try this. Okay, so it does sort of fall down. I don't know what's going on here. Why that block is floating around like that. So it probably has a little bit more collision than it needs. but that's fine. I mean, it's hard to get like a very detailed collision on these bots. Anyway, let's check this one out. Let's see how tall this thing... Oh, I just realized we're gonna go through this gun thing. Okay, so this one has less collision than it needs. There's the collision. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 tall, 8 wide, and 9 in depth. So this has a pretty large collision box. Let's see, why is that so tall? I mean, we ignored the gun already, so why is there this big gap here? Let's get rid of this and see if it falls. No, it sits right there in place. That's a little weird. It's a little weird. Alright, well, let's take a look at some of the things that we can do with this mod. So that's all there is to it. You can place a Farmbot down. You can have your little Farmbots to play with. I almost made it land on its feet again. Oh, I did it! I did it! Alright, now we're going to take a look into the mod files and see if there's any suggestions that I have to offer. Okay, so out here on the desktop, I have all of the mod files open and ready to go. The first thing that I wanted to take a look at was the object's collision, because that was the first thing that I noticed in-game with the weird floating block on top of the Farmbot, so... And already I can tell this... Well, I mean, this collision pointless. It looks fine. There might have been some issues, like, the reason why I've been seeing that floating block, the first one, was really weird. The reason why I might have been seeing that might have been just because there's no margin set, so the default margin is probably a little bit too big and then adds a little bit more collision than you actually need. And I know some of you might be wondering, what is all of this? Because I haven't actually covered hull collision in my tutorials yet for custom parts. We will be covering that in an upcoming tutorial, so you don't need to worry about it too much right now, but for now I think this hull list is actually fine the way it is. Might just need some minor improvements, but it really depends on what the measurements are for the 3D model. like I said, it's really tricky to do for a complex model like a Farmbot. So moving on down to the next collision points. There's a lot of collision points in here, and I can already see there are some that you don't actually need, like this one. I'm pretty sure you don't actually need this one at all. It doesn't do anything. Like, it doesn't add to the collision, and it doesn't like take it away either. It's just because this point in the collision space is already covered by other points in the collision space. So I don't think you really need all these collision points. Or maybe there's like, maybe you're mixing up your Y and Z axis or something, because I saw like when we were building, we went right through the gun, but then there was like extra space on the top. So yeah, maybe there is like a Y and Z axis mix up going on here. One more thing about these Farmbots. I noticed that you used the physics material metal, but you didn't actually capitalize the M when saying metal. So I think as long as you have the lowercase m, it's not actually going to work, and it's just going to sound like plastic. Other than that though, the JSON looks pretty good. So the next thing that I wanted to look at specifically in the mod files was the folder for the 3D models, the mesh folder. Inside the mesh folder, I noticed there are these .mtl files. These are some of the files that come along with exporting a .obj file. You don't actually need to include these into your mod folder. These aren't actually used by the game or by the .obj. Normally they are used by the .obj in like other stuff. And the .mtl will define the material for the 3D model, like how shiny it is and stuff like that. That's all decided by the ASG texture in Scrap Mechanic. So you don't actually need these .mtl files. But speaking of textures, if we take a look at the texture folder, we can see there are some extra textures that we aren't using, and that's these green ones over here. These are probably the original textures that Mineslime worked from, and these are probably the result of that, the transparent ones that are paintable. So we have paintable Farmbots. So we got our diff here, our normal map here, and it looks like the ASG is just using a black image. So this mod takes files that were hidden inside the game, like the Farmbot models and the textures. They're hidden inside the game, and he's just using them in his custom parts mod. So if we take a look at the original textures, right here, I have it open. We see there are the original green robot textures right here. The normal map textures right there. There is an additional red version and an additional yellow version. But it doesn't really matter once it's all transparent and paintable. You can have any colors that you want. So as you can see, there are specular images here and here. Now these aren't ASG textures, but if you remember from our previous tutorials, the ASG contains information for alpha channel, specular channel, glowing channel, and reflective channel. So out of the 4 channels that are used in an ASG texture, this is actually one of them, the specular channel. This is the green color for our ASG texture. So it's actually possible to take this color, even this black and white color, you can remove all of the red color from it and all of the blue color from it, and you're left with only a black and green specular map. So you can use these specular maps to actually create your ASG textures. Now the next thing that I wanted to take a look at was the icon map, because I noticed in game it looked a little bit weird. So if we open up the icon map, it looks like this. And we can see that the robots are like facing away from the camera. I mean, we can tell which one's which pretty easily, but I still think it would look a little bit nicer if they were facing the camera a little bit. So, you know, just like 90-degree turn to the right. Sometimes this is very easy to do, or sometimes it's very hard to do. Like if you create a very unique part with like a unique shape to it, and then hundreds of people start using it in their blueprints, and there's lots of creations with it in the workshop, you can't just go ahead and change the 3D model and change the collision and all that stuff. It's just going to ruin everyone's blueprints. But depending on the model itself, like if the model is just a cylinder with a graphic on one side, it's not going to change the collision, so it's not really going to ruin the function of anyone's blueprints in the workshop, but it might ruin the aesthetic of it. So for these, I might suggest just rotating the model, and that's an easy way to fix the problem, and I don't think a lot of people have actually used this mod just yet. Now if you find yourself in that position, there is a way to change the direction that the icon map is taken. I think we can go for the easier option and just take the 3D model and rotate it 90 degrees. It's not going to affect people's blueprints too much because they're just rotating in place. So let's go ahead and take a look at the 3D models. So over here I have Mineslime's Farmbot model. As you can see, this red line, this is the x-axis. So if the icon map looks like this, with the Farmbot facing the x-axis, what we want to do is turn it 90 degrees to the right, just like this, and then export the model like this. And then when the icon generator does its thing, the Farmbot will be facing the camera a little bit better, and it'll look just like this. But now that I have this 3D model open, there are a few things that I want to point out. First of all, there are a lot of hard edges. So if I look at this with some example lighting, it looks very polygonal. Which is alright, I mean, it's a robot, so they typically look very polygonal anyway, built out of metal plates and stuff, so it's alright. But let's compare this with one that I worked on a little bit. So for this one, you can see that there's significantly less hard edges, and that's because I selected some of them and changed them to soft edges. And the reason why I did that is to, well, here, if I just show you in the example lighting, you can see already, if you compare this leg with this one, or the other ones, that one's a lot smoother looking. And if you look at the knee, I guess it would be the knee of the robot, I left this face, this section right here, very flat, because that's where if you look at the texture, for this robot, here's the leg, and this screw or bolt, I guess it would be, I don't know what it is, this bolt would be right on the side of the knee, right here. So I've left that flat just to sort of emulate that's a bolt tightly on there. But if you look on the other side, I've opted to keep those edges soft so that it looks a little bit more rounded. So it really depends on the look that you're going for to determine which edges you want hard and which edges you want soft. So one more example right here, if we look right here in the middle here, this is like a round part in the like a sphere, I guess. But if you have all of the edges hard like this, it'll look very segmented, and I mean, like I said, it's a robot. It looks fine the way it is. But you know, if you want to give it that extra oomph, I would make these all these edges soft so that it looks very round on the inside like this. But you got to be careful which ones you make soft and which ones you make hard. For example, here, this leg, I've kept the edges on the back face here, especially around the corner here, very hard because we don't want this to be treated like a round edge. We want it to be treated like a sharp corner. And you can see here exactly where you can see over here exactly where the hard edges start and where they stop, and the effect that they have on the model. And I know I said one more example, but this is the last one. So if you look at the cylinder here in the middle, and we select all of the edges, and we make them hard edges like they were before, we get this very polygonal look. And if we select all the edges again and just make them soft, we can see it looks a lot rounder than before. We know that there are segments on that cylinder, but the lighting makes it look like there are a lot more, like it's a lot smoother. Now, you should take a lot of these suggestions with a grain of salt, and that's because I didn't really notice a lot of this stuff in-game. Just when I was hammering around those Farmbots, I didn't even notice that the edges were hard or soft. So, there might be a significant difference if I were to export this model and replace it with his so that I can see it in-game. I might notice a difference then. But like I said, don't focus like too much on this sort of stuff because it takes time to learn how to make mods for Scrap Mechanic, and all of this stuff can't happen overnight either. So as time goes on, you can improve the mod with more and more updates to get the mod to be the best mod that it can be. Alright, so that's going to be it for today's mod review. Let me know what you guys think. Do you like the concept of the mod review series? Be sure to let me know with a thumbs up or a thumbs down, and comment things like which parts you liked and which parts you didn't. So once more, the mod to check out this week is called Farmbots by Mineslime. Link will be in the description. Don't forget to let Mineslime know what you think about his mod. And here's where I really need your guys' help. I need everyone watching this video to go down into the comments and suggest what the next mod will be in the mod review series. But first, take a quick look through the comments to make sure somebody else didn't already suggest it. If they did, make sure to thumbs up the comment because I will be looking at the highest rated comments to decide on the next mod to review. This is great, I'm super excited because there are so many mods on the workshop to check out. Some of you have been making really good use of my tutorials, and I'm glad to see that. There are also some other very talented mod makers in our community, and we'll definitely be checking out their work in the near future. So there's lots of exciting mods to check out, like Mineslime's Farmbots, and I hope you've enjoyed today's video. So if you like this sort of thing and you want to see more Scrap Mechanic and Scrap Mechanic mods, don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another video. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye!